Hey there, Wargamers, Justin here, Painter, and today we're going to talk about Light Mechs. I'd like to welcome you guys back to the channel. If you are new here, thank you for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe. Let's get that subscriber count going up. We are continuing to grow every day, and you guys that continue to hang out and support what I do are helping make that happen. So, why are we talking about Light Mechs today? So, I had a question on YouTube about why I might field a light mech with a very high pilot skill. And our video today may be brief, but tactically speaking, it's going to make hopefully a little bit of sense. So I sat here and folded this up, and I can use it as an example. So we've got some light mechs here. These aren't the exact ones from the video, but I have this list here, and I can use it to help explain. So this Mercury here is 22 points. A Fire Moth is usually around the same points, less life. This one's got a pretty good TMM. The Fire Moth does too. This one's skill 4. Let me plug this in master unit list, and I can give you guys a better example, or have a better feel for what this would cost if its point total was higher. So let's type this in. This is a Mercury 99. Let's see here. Alright, so the Mercury 99 at 4. Skill 4 is 22 points. We're going to make that skill 6. So he's 18. 4-point difference, right? It's 4 points. Not a huge amount. By making him skill, let's say 6. So instead of 4, he's a 6. Let's call that a 6, right? That's really terrible. In this case, he has 0 long range, so I'm never going to be shooting at long range with him. If I was shooting at long range, even at skill 4, that's 4 plus 4 for range, plus the TMM of the target, which on average is probably going to be a 2. So looking at 10s. I'm never going to be making that shot, right? At medium range at skill 4, I'm looking at 4 plus 2 is 6, plus TMM, probably an 8 for 1 point of damage. If I want to leverage this Mercury, I'm going to be hopefully getting the short range, and I'm hopefully going to be doing that on a rear arc. So if I get my Mercury or my light mech into the rear arc of a target, we've got 2 damage base. And then if you play like I do, as long as you deal at least 1 point of damage, you get +1, right, on the rear shots. If you're playing an alternative way with multiple damage rolls, some people do flat +1 dice, so they'll just do 3 damage and roll. They'll do that because they get +1 for rear. The way I do it, you have to roll, and as long as one of those goes through, you get the bonus damage for hitting a rear shot on thin armor. That's the way that I do it. So in either case, you're still leveraging getting either an extra dice roll or an extra point of damage, which equates similarly. So skill 4, real shot at short range is going to be, plus your TMM probably averaging 2, 6s, right? So if you shave off 4 points, which doesn't seem like much, but it adds up. You shave off 4 points, his skill goes from a 4 to a 6, right? And you're on someone's rear arc. An average TMM of a 2, you're looking at 8. You need a slightly above average roll to still do damage. And you've saved 4 points. Now, if it's an inner sphere mech, you might be averaging like 1 TMM. Now you need an average roll. So with a standard TMM or skill 4, you need an average or a slightly below average roll to do damage. For this one, you need slightly average or slightly above to do damage. But you saved 4 points. So that 4 points is huge. If you haven't watched my video already on list building or introduction to master unit list, you should check that out. But there are times where that 4 points is major, right? So one of the philosophies that I approach with light mechs is that if his points are low, keep him lean, keep him mean, go for rear shots. Not only do I have that points for other stuff in my list, he is still equally as hard to kill. I can make him skill 7, shave off some more points to save. His TMM doesn't change. It's still 4. He's still really going to be annoying to hit, and if they do hit him, he's probably dead anyway, or close to it. I would rather invest those saved points in something else. If that 4 points means a bigger unit or a higher skill, I want to do that. So let's think about this like chess, right? Do you want to have, in an ideal world, let's say you're playing a 300-point game of Alpha Strike, right? In an ideal world, your whole chess list for Alpha Strike would be all queens. That's what you want, right? But in Alpha Strike, your queen might be like 70 points, right? You can't feasibly have a list for chess or Alpha Strike with all queens. You just can't. That's not the way the points work. That or you'll have very, very elite units, but you won't have the pawns. And the pawns matter. The pawns are what you use to feed into the meat grinder, the grunts on the ground that you put in to hold objectives, the harassing units, the units that if they go down, you're not as worried about them, right? One of the terms you'll hear in chess is like trading material, right? So I'm going to run forward. Let's say this Mercury is a fire moth. My fire moth I run's probably around 18 points. It's probably skill 6, skill 7. It's only got 2 life. It's very easy to kill, but it's got Omni. So it's got Omni on its special rules. My use for that pawn is to drive forward with my Light Mech. This is not a fire moth, but with my Light Mech, and drop behind something like this and dump off my battle armor, right? So he's going to jump, boom, drop that battle armor. So now I've got this going right here. So let's pretend this is a fire moth. Let's pretend that that's a battle armor in front there that we've dropped, and that fire moth's 18 points, skill 6. We've dropped a battle armor behind him. The battle armor was probably also like, I don't know, we've got a battle armor list here. Let's say we dropped a Marauder battle armor. Actually, here we go. This one's fluffy. This one's the 5 squad, right? 14 points. He's got 3 damage. 14 points. That's at skill 4. So he's skill 4, right? So our fire moth at short range, let's say he's got 2 damage. So 2 DMG. This is the skill. This is the points, right? This guy at short range, he's got 3 damage. With force to hit, right? So pawn, expendable. Also cheap, 14 points, right? And we saved, remember we saved 4 points earlier. That 4 points was almost a third of this guy's cost, right? Just by shaving it. And if you start to cascade that across some of your units, you start paying for this extra guy. So we saved points here, we saved points on some other units. That bought us a skill 4, 3 damage, right? To potential to put out, right? So this fire moth example, he's got 2 damage, which I already wrote, plus potential 1 on the rear at skill 6. This guy's got 3 damage, plus 1 potential on the rear, right? So saved about almost a third of his cost just off him. He's skill 4. This guy's team M is 1 on a 5. On a 5, a below average roll, you're dealing this damage. And this guy on a 6 plus 1, so 7 on an average roll or slightly above average, he's getting damage. So you can see how these layers of the points start to get you different qualities, different traits. If either one of these goes down, yeah, it sucks. I don't want it. But now my opponent has to invest shots in this guy, has to invest shots in this guy, and those are behind him. What's in front of him? What have I put in front of that awesome, right? In this case, right? Okay. Cool. I'm playing Jade Falcon. That's my fire moth right there. What's in front of him? At medium range, I got a Mad Cat with 5, 6, or 7 damage. Skill 3, sitting in woods or sitting obscured behind a building, and I'm pumping shots at his face. Right? Just rockets and lasers and PPCs. Now, he can return fire. He can try and take out this threat, which makes sense. But these will always be here. And if he ignores those, these are going to continue to pepper and annoy him. You know, you've got the backfield, you've got the flanking units. This is the same thing as like flanking. You're disrupting the lines. So now any units he has that might be forward to try and harass you, he might have to divert back. Or he goes to harass you, you have to retreat to try and shoot at them, and your units get to do work. These are pawns. They are expendable. So let's say your opponent does turn. He invests material. He starts to divert his units to try and shoot them, to take them out. Now his focus is on those, not on your big guy, right? If one of these dies, that sucks, but I would rather lose a 14-point piece of infantry, which we could make him skill 6, and he's probably like 11 points or something, right? I'd rather lose this or this than that. Those two combined at 32 points are still barely half of that Timberwolf, right? Make them make choices, okay? These are my pawns. These are my rooks, my bishops, my knights, my queens. These are the material that I do not want to lose, and if I trade them, it damn sure better be to give me an advantage, right? If I trade my pawns, it's to get them into a better position to take out your material. I will rather trade these 32 points to try and take out this guy and save him. And if you invest all your shots here, those pawns are still lethal. Remember, in chess, your pawn can still take out a queen. You can still get a pawn in position to help checkmate a king. You can't ignore them. They just happen to be the easy ones to take out. In this case, these are pawns on steroids because they have such high movement and they can get in behind a target and try and harass them and force your opponent to make choices. Force them to divert, force them to try and deal with them, and if they ignore them, punish them for that. And that's the way that works. So hopefully that explains why in my weird make-believe land way of going right in a big old circle, like we're back here. This is the point that we're trying to make. Hopefully that drives home why I do what I do with lights, why I don't worry so much about the skills. And in closing, if your skill is higher and therefore worse, consider the range you're firing at. If you're firing at long range, which the modifier is a 4, the lower your skill, the better, because you know you always have that 4, right? So like this guy's skill 6. If my Timberwolf is skill 3 and shooting at range 4, he's effectively skill 7, right? Plus TMM. It's almost the same, right? So the further out you're trying to keep a unit, the better you want your skill to make sure you shoot. The closer in you plan to be, you know that you're not going to have those modifiers. And if you're playing the averages and you're trying to look for a 6 or 7 to hit, something like that, maybe even 8 on the rear, like you can leverage that. And the other thing with these is they can hold objectives. People forget they hold objectives. And you get behind them, you harass them. If they ignore you, you hold objectives. If you still can't hit shit, your unit is still good at holding an objective, right? So if they want to take you out and stop you from shooting them, they have to you have to invest the material. And if they ignore you, you shoot them in the back or you go for objectives. This guy could have skill 10 and can't hit anything. He's still good enough to pick up a flag, still good enough to hold an objective, right? You can't ignore the pawns. So that is why I look at the skills the way that I do on my lights, and I look at them as modified, souped up, super engine, super mechy stompy pawns. On that note, folks, hopefully this was helpful for you. If you enjoyed this, hit that like and subscribe. Sound off in the comments below if you want to help support what I do. Check out Death Ray Designs and Fortress Miniatures and Games. But as always, as you guys know, if I do not sign off, I will continue to ramble. So we're going to sign off today, right now. Thank you for hanging out. As always, keep painting your models, keep rolling your dice, keep working on your tactics, and I will catch you guys next time.